In this program, we'll be using the private as well as protected attributes. See, this is an employee class. It has three attributes: code name and salary. Code and name attributes are prefixed with 2 underscores. The attributes which are prefixed with 2 underscores are known as private attributes. So they can be used within this body of the class, within the employee class. And this salary, which is a single underscore, is the protected attribute. And the protected attributes can be used within the body of the class and the class which is inheriting it. Officer class is inheriting it. And that is why this salary is used in calculating allowances of the officer class also. Not only this, we'll be understanding how the private attributes are accessed in the main function, how the private methods are defined and used, right? So watch the video up till the end. Let us start. In this lecture, we'll be learning about private and protected attributes. Not only the private and protected attributes, we'll be understanding private and protected methods also. Now, what is the basic difference between the two? See, the private attributes can be used within the body of the class only. That is, if you try to access any private method or attribute outside the body of the class, like in the main function, you get the error that I cannot see that variable. That variable is not defined. That method is not defined. Because the life of that attribute or method which is declared as private is within that class only. Outside it's invisible. Similarly, the protected methods and variables can be accessed in a class and from the classes which are inheriting it, not from the main function. Now, how the compiler will know that this is a public member or this is a private member? If any method or attribute is prefixed by 2 underscores, it is known as a private method or attribute. If any attribute or method is prefixed with a single underscore, it is known as a protected method or attribute, right? Now, to understand the concept practically, let us understand a program. This is a usual program of calculating area of rectangle. Let us start from the main function. You have defined an object R of red class, and while defining an object, you are passing 2 arguments 5 and 8. By looking at these arguments 5 and 8, Python compiler will realize that there has to be a parameterized constructor in the red class. Control will jump to the parameterized constructor. These arguments 5 and 8 will be assigned to the x and y parameters, and from x and y parameters, these values will be assigned to L and B attributes. And these L and B are instance attributes, the public attributes of the object which is created. That is of the R object. Now, you get a message on the screen, area of rectangle is, you are invoking the rect area function of the R object. This rect area is a public method or it's a private method. See, there is not a single underscore nor a double underscore before this method. So, this is definitely a public method. So, there will be no error while calling it in the main function. Control will jump over here. You are computing the multiplication of length and breadth attributes. So multiplication of 5 and 8 will be returned and 40 will be displayed over here. Now again a message is displayed, area of rectangle is, and you are multiplying the length and breadth attributes outside the class. You are multiplying the length and breadth attributes in the main function, and you will never get an error because these length and breadth are again a public attribute. You get the output 5 into 8, that is 40. In this variant of the program, we will understand the concept of private attribute first. In the next program, we will understand what are the private methods. Let's start with the main function. You are making an object R of red class. 5 and 8 arguments will be passed to these x and y parameters. And from x and y parameters, these values will be assigned to L and B attributes. Are these L and B public attributes or private attributes? These are definitely the private attributes because you can see the 2 underscores over here. So length and breadth are private attributes. And these are the private attributes of the object which is created, that is of our object. Now you get a message on the screen, area of rectangle is, you are invoking rect area function. Because rect area is a public method, it can be called from the main function. Control will jump over here. It is returning the multiplication of length and breadth attributes. See, though these length and breadth are private attributes, but they can be easily called within the body of the function. And because this rect area is within the rect class, there will be no error in accessing these private attributes. So the multiplication of 5 and 8 will be returned and will be displayed. Now if I remove this comment, here you will get an error. While running this program in Spider ID, I will remove this comment, I will show you what is the error, okay? Because in this line, you are accessing the private attributes in the main function, which is not possible, right? See, I have documented also, the above statement will give you an error. But what if I want to access the private attributes in the main function? You have to use the class name also. See, this is the object name, the class name, then you can use the private attribute. See, the complete syntax is, after the object name, you have to use underscore, then a class name, and these are the private attributes with the 2 underscores, right? So I have written here, to access private variables from outside the body of the class, you have to use the class name along with the instance name. So using this syntax, you can access the private attributes in the main function also. Let us run this program. This is Python IDE, I am running it. See, area rectangle is 40. This is because of this invoking of rect area function. And this is the area rectangle is 40. This is because of accessing the private attribute from the main function. Now, we'll understand about the private method. Just first try to understand this simple usual program of calculating salary of employee. We'll start from the main function. You are making an object empobj of employee class. You are passing 3 arguments 101, bin2 and 1000. This is code, name and salary. These arguments will be assigned to these parameters C, N and S, and from the parameters C, N and S, these will be assigned to code, name and salary attributes. Obviously these are public attributes. Because being the public attributes, they can be displayed in the main function. See, code, name and salary, and you are accessing these attributes in the main function. There will be no error. Then you get a message, city compensatory allowance is, you are invoking the CCA function. Control come over here. It will calculate the 25% of basic salary as a CCA, and house rent allowance. This is the message on the screen, and it will invoke the HRA function. It will control will jump over here. It is computing. It is assuming the HRA as 15% of basic salary. It will be computed and returned and displayed here. And the gross salary is the sum of basic salary, CCA and HRA. This is just a simple program with some formulas, random formulas. Okay. Now, how will be this class if certain private methods are used in this class? It will appear as follows. Start from the main function. You are making an object empobj of employee class. 3 arguments 101, bin2 and 1000 will be passed to it. These arguments will be assigned to these parameters C, N and S. And from these parameters C, N and S, they will be assigned to code name and salary attributes. These code name and salary are public attributes. Be careful. There is neither a single underscore or 2 underscores. So they are neither the protected attribute nor the private attributes. Now see, this is the private method CCA. It is computing CCA as 25% of the basic salary. This HRA is also a private method which is computing HRA as 15% of the basic salary. Because this gross method is within the employee class only, so it can access these 2 private methods. So it is calculating the gross salary as the basic salary and the sum of CCA and HRA. Okay. After initializing of these 3 parameters, code name and salary, control will come over here. Displaying code name and salary, no problem, because these are public attributes, they can be accessed. Now see, here I have commented out because I have written that these 2 statements will get you an error. Because CCA is a private method, you cannot access a private method in the main function. Also, while invoking the HRA, you get an error because HRA is also declared as a private method. Now see, if I want to access CCA in the main function, I have to use the same formula which I used while accessing the private attributes. I have to use the class name along with the object name. See, this is the object name, this is a class name, and this is a private method. There will be no error. So you displayed the CCA, city compensatory allowance, in the main function. House rent allowance. See, invoking the private method by using the object as well as the class. See, so I have written here, to access a private method or variable outside the body of the class, you can use the class name along with the instance name. You can invoke the gross method to display the gross salary because gross is a public method. The only thing is that you have to use 2 underscores to declare private method or attribute, and if you really want to access them outside the body of the class, you have to use the class name along with the object name. See, 101, bin2, 1000, this is the salary. This codename salary has appeared because of these attributes, and these attributes are public attributes, right? The CCA and HRA are displayed because of invoking the private method CCA and HRA, because they are using the instance name along with the class name also. And gross salary is invoked because this gross is a public method. Now what about the protected variables? As I told you that if you use a single underscore before any attribute, it is declared as a protected attribute, and it can be used within the body of the class as well as in the class which is inheriting it. For example, this is the class employee, which has 1 parameterized constructor and 2 functions, allowances and empinfo function. This officer class is inheriting the employee class. So if there is any protected attribute in this employee class, it can be accessed by the officer class also. See, this employee class has two private attributes, code and name, right? But it has a protected attribute salary. So this salary can be accessed in this body of the class, in employee class, and it can be also accessed in the officer class because it is inheriting it. Here see, you are calculating HRA and you are making use of the protected attribute. If there are two underscores, you will get an error over here because by using two underscore it would have become a private attribute and it cannot be accessed even in the inheriting class also. So let's start from the main function. Employee information is, this is the message you get on the screen. You are making an object emp obj of employee class. 101, bintu and 1000 will be passed as an argument, will be assigned to these parameters c, n and s, and from c, n and s will be assigned to these attributes code, name and salary, where code and name are private attribute and salary is a protected attribute. Control will jump over here. It is invoking the allowances function of employee class. Control will jump over here. You are calculating 25% of the basic salary as a CCA, 15% of the basic salary as HRA and gross salary, right? Where CCA, HRA and gross salary, all the three attributes are declared as private. You can see these two underscores, right? And as I told you, because the salary is a protected attribute, it can be easily used in its own class and it can be easily accessed in the officer class also because it is inheriting this employee class. So these three things are calculated. Control will come over here. Invoking the emp info function of the employee class, it will come here and it will display all the six things. Code, name and salary, CCA, HRA and gross salary. You can notice that 5 attributes are private. Code, name and CCA, HRA and gross are private attributes, but there will be no error at all because this emp info function is defined within the employee class. So private attributes can be accessed within the class and the protected attribute can be used within the class and it has an extra liberty to be used in the class which is deriving it, which is inheriting it. So all the 6 things are displayed. On the screen you get a message, officer information is, you are making an object officer obj of officer class. This 102, Chirag and 1000 will be passed as argument. So these 3 things will be assigned to these parameters x, y, z of this parameterized constructor of the officer class. In this parameterized constructor of the officer class, you are invoking the parameterized constructor of the superclass. Employee is a superclass of the officer class. So the value stored in the XYZ parameters, that is this 102, Chirag and 1000 will be taken along while invoking the parameterized constructor of the superclass, that is of the employee class. These values in the XYZ parameters will be assigned to these parameters C, N and S, and from C, N and S, these values will be assigned to the code name and salary attributes. Again, code and name are the private attributes and salary is the protected attribute. Control will jump over here. Invoking the allowances function of the officer class, control will come over here. You are invoking the salary attribute of the employee class and there will be no error because it's a protected attribute and officer class is inheriting the employee class and protected attribute can be used by the inheriting class also. So HRA is calculated as 20% of the basic salary and it is displayed. So let us run this program. See, this was code name and salary and CC and HRA was displayed because of invoking of emp info function by the emp obj object, and this HRA as 20% was calculated through the officer obj, right? And you can see that the salary attribute was accessed in the officer class, being the protected attribute. So if you followed this lecture, I am giving you an homework. This is the usual way of calculating salary of an employee, right? You have code name and salary, you have to calculate CC, HRA and gross salary and you have to display it, right? I want you to do the same question using the private attribute and private method. If you are able to do this homework, let me know in the comment box.